So the your headphones, I don't know. Uh, so have fun with that. But especially because the idea came up as we're talking about this. The book is definitely like a Wayland Yutani style bend. We're talking about this kind of non-idyllic sci-fi future in alien RPG. And so Starship Troopers and especially Helldivers came up, and hell, you could run Helldivers in alien RPG pretty efficiently.
Wants to hold it. Citizen rule. People making a better tomorrow.
Oop, is it- that's it's too large. Here you go.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
And this came back into you don't need to know a ton about aliens, the lore. If you find a system that works, can you run Helldivers in Dungeons and Dragons? Yes, absolutely. Will it run better in other systems than D&D? Yes, absolutely. And hello, Medusa Queen. Medusa, remind me if you weren't here for the first part, I'll show off. I'm going to be uploading the 5th type of entry into the Tiamat event coming up here. So that next week, not this weekend, but next weekend, I should have the 6th and final, meaning you and others can get your 6 different entries into the Tiamat event if you all wanted to. You'll have about 2 weeks after that. In order for all of the events to manifest. But the 5th one is going to go up probably after I finish the stream here tonight. And so I look forward to you and the others. I mean, not that you have to. If you're happy with your one, hey, one is all you need. But you can get up to the 6. The 6 different coloring book entries are one unique one each. So work on it as much as any of you all would like. And of course, if you all are looking to have your character here input, you could talk to artists in our community who I'm sure would work out something in order to get your character in the coloring book pages. Anyway, let's move on. We're picking up in this exploration of making frontier colonists. Jacob had this dream of building a cabin on a new world, like the old pioneers on Earth. A cabin next to a lake. I mean, a real cabin made of real wood. And remember the future that we're talking about here. Doggo will be fine. When have aliens ever hurt a doggo? Or a cat, for that matter. You probably think you know what it means to be a frontier colonist. You have to be the bravest of the brave to voyage across the darkness of space tread on virgin soil, and forge new frontiers from untouched planets. You have to be willing to risk the lives of your family with the determination that what lies ahead, despite the dangers and the struggle to come, will be better than what went before. There is so much uncertainty in this new chapter you are writing in your life. What a story you will have to tell. Where did you get that idea? A recruitment brochure? That's all romanticized BS. The truth is, you've gone and bitten off more than you can chew. Sure, the risks are real, but the rewards? Few and far between. Your best chance at surviving your first year on some newly chartered hellhole is to make sure you have the skills and know-how to hold your own when the defecation hits the ventilation. Thank you for hanging out, Sierra. How you go about creating your frontier character is covered in detail in this chapter, although you should follow the standard method of PC creation unless instructed otherwise. In a frontier colonist campaign, you will be playing ordinary folks doing extraordinary things. Your PCs can be of any career they please, as every career will be needed out on the frontier somewhere. But under each career, there are many possible jobs that need taking care of. See next page for guidance over your career options. Your player characters will have a common background or bond that brought them together in the first place, whether they are crewing an exploration or prospecting outfit, or setting out to start a new life on a virgin planet. While life on the frontier for the average Joe is all about work, and more work, there are lots of opportunities to be had, claims to be made, and dollars to be earned. The naive amongst your colonization team can even expect what they'd call an adventure or two, something the grizzled old veterans simply call hazard pay. You'll earn that by not only exploring the cosmos and being the first to take a plunge into a new unknown, but by doing your effing job, building worlds and the political and personal infighting that goes with it. After all, this hard work isn't for nothing. To create your frontier colonist, follow the character generation rules in Chapter 2 of the Aliens RPG, with a couple of additional things to think about. So grab a character sheet, a pencil, and don't forget to decide what bond or connection draws your PCs together. Below, consider the new frontier careers of Wildcatter and Entertainer when you make your choice on page 50. And remember, every career has a greater selection of starting talents to choose from, and those are on 48. Surviving on the frontier isn't just down to your skill, resilience, and resourcefulness. To thrive, you need teamwork. Your players should consider what bond or connection their characters already have that draws them together, bearing in mind the style and direction of the campaign they will be playing. This doesn't confer any mechanical advantage, but adds role-playing color and gives the players a common connection and motivation. Absolutely agree. Could you still have the part of the game where you have a rival and things might not always go well? That it's more enforced in a cinematic, where you had that betrayal, especially because no one necessarily knows each other in the cinematic style game. You might be a bunch of strangers forced together by circumstance in a panicked moment. In a campaign style play, it would be better to have these bonds that will help keep you together in this long run. So you can read over the prompts. I'm not going over every little thing, but I do want to touch on some of these things. All the character careers from the core rulebook can be adapted for a frontier specialism. This section offers guidance to make those careers your own out of the frontier. Alternatively, there are 2 new frontier careers that might interest you: the Wildcatter and the Entertainer. As the range of jobs needed on the frontier is so vast and varied, we have listed 2 extra talents for each of the traditional careers. When selecting your career talent, you can choose from these extra talents as well as those listed in the core rulebook, but you still only get 1 talent to start with. You also get an extra gear option on top of those in the core rulebook, but only get to choose a total of 2. Colonial Marine. You can be a Colonial Marine out on the frontier, but typically that means you're a grunt, kept ready to stand on the line, offer disaster relief, or play My Nuke is Bigger Than Yours with a foreign powers overambitious border force. On the frontier, the locals are usually looking for muscle rather than firepower, creating opportunities for a former Marine to cross over into the private sector. Colonial security gigs are always available, but they're poorly paid for the perilous risks you're expected to take. Mercenary work is there if you can find it, but you better have something unique to offer. Security can usually do what you can, and they are cheaper. Finally, there's always an out-of-the-way maximum security prison that needs guarding. Talents and the gear are there. And it'll do this for the standard careers that are in the core book. Now, I have that as well. That is here in Chapter 2 for your character. The character creation process is not complex for Alien RPG. It doesn't mean you can't have nuanced or varied characters. Or that, well, if someone's playing the Colonial Marine, there's not a lot of options. I can't be a Marine too. Of course you can. All sorts of ways to reflavor it and to distribute your skills or other applications, even of the same skill, let alone how your own character's personality guides everything that you do. By the way, there it mentions campaign play and cinematic play differences. But they're, career attributes. All this is in the core rulebook. We can reference it. We can keep that up. In fact, we'll stretch this one out a little bit. And then we'll sink this down a little bit too, so I can click into it more easily. All right, there we go. So it'll go over a take on each of the standard careers from the core book. We have new talents. This is for the new careers of the Wildcatter and the Entertainer. And more general talents. I see like group psychology because you all are in this together. Husbandry. Get her done. There we go. Freshly baked croissant. Hey, question: what program you use to stream? If you don't mind me asking, Zamada. I use Streamlabs. However, I am converting that over to regular old slobs. Hopefully, I can do that for the spring quarter and moving forward. I can't say I've heard of Zamada. What's a Zamada to you? I haven't now. Yep, nothing much. Zamada with you. Hey! This Griff right here. This Griff. Hey. There's green in them thar hills, money to be made on every rock you can reach. If you know what to look for, and you know what to look for. You may be an independent prospector seeking out the rich resources that bring wealth to corporations, governments, and a little bit for yourself. Or if you've taken the company dime, you might be a colony surveyor, choosing the best site for building or estimating how much construction might cost, or a land agent, defining who owns what and who owes how much in rent. This might not mean a lot to you all. It was in the prior section. Exclamation point YouTube. You're welcome to watch our Alien RPG reviews and go through the system with those videos and watch the 3-part Red Space adventure that plays out there, which totally was a precursor to this mod. So it goes over what you get here for being a Wildcatter, some general directions, but you are left to take a character in a direction you would like. You aren't roped into this, or you aren't like confined to this little box. The frontier needs all kinds of people to make life bearable. Everyone knows about the pilots, engineers, companies, shills, security guards, scientists, and medics. That's not you. You're an entertainer, a performer, croupier, unofficial club owner, waiter, barkeep, or other profession. One of the unsung folks who make life in a rundown, rat shit place bearable. At the end of a long day, the roustabouts and mechanics, lab technicians and cleaners all need a friendly face and an hour or two where they can forget how tough their life is. Your job is to provide exactly that. That's what you do. You make life bearable on the frontier. Personal agendas. It looks like personal agendas are continued here. Hopefully they're not quite the same as what you can find in cinematic scenarios. Like this, you have been ordered to kill this person. Do it by the end of Act 3 for a bonus, But everyone still has their own thing, their own goal, their own preference. Something that they value themselves and maybe even above others. For example, here, let's do this. Rosewolf, type exclamation point 1D100. Rosewolf, what is your personal agenda? Let's say that you are an entertainer because it's conveniently one click away from this other page. So we have Rosewolf. She's setting down with a mixed crew and is going to be providing them entertainment. But what really lies in the heart of Rosewolf? Well, we might not have Rosewolf. Heretic Trance, can you give me a D100 roll in chat? Lands on a 13. You only feel good when you hold power and influence over others, and where better to do that than on the frontier. And using that power makes you feel even better. So yes, Heretic. Everyone goes to your bar. I don't know, Heretic Trance. Let's say that you were along on a colony ship. You're an entertainer of some kind. I don't know what kind. Just got to keep it PG-13 is all. No, you're fine. You're fine, Rosewolf. James says, we were doing a world builder and my character had a whole other agenda. So besides the party's goal of exploring and developing new lands, he was sent there to explore caves and see if he could get word back to his people in the Underdark on how to travel there. His personal goal was to set up a black market in a back room. Gear and ships. How do we look down there? Okay, but remember, this is a patch job. If we hit too much turbulence, the cells will blow. And that's all she said. So take it easy. I hear you. Captain Arthur Dallas and engineers Dennis Parker and Samuel Brett. USCSS Nostromo. I'm not going to get into the minutia of the gear. This is here, and this is for you all to look over. There are probably going to be some slight differences between the gear that you find in the core Alien RPG book. These are things that are probably modifications. They might be a little bit more rare, and maybe you can find interesting ways to use them. There might be something different, like here is a mining laser. The standard mining laser is the Weyland-Yutani tool converted into a weapon by disgruntled miners during the 2106 uprising on Tauran Prime. And all of a sudden you might go, wait a minute. Can I run Dead Space in Red Space? I mean, in Alien RPG? Oh, why yes. And you know what? While you can also run Dead Space in Dungeons and Dragons, I would wager that a system like Alien RPG is going to be a lot closer to giving you the feel that you want for a Dead Space style role-playing game. Or Helldivers, or something else. And so you might go, oh, that's a cool shotgun. Oh, that's a mining laser. Which is also why it has a stun effect. And not just a make dead effect, right? Demon Cooler says, I've ran cinematics based on The Thing and Event Horizon. Good times. Oh, DQ, I would love to hear little bits of the story or how it worked out. Now, you're seeing things. This is base dice. There's also stress dice. This is getting... don't look at this chart and go, oh, 2 out of 10. Literally unplayable. I have to memorize all this? No more than you have to memorize every weapon in D&D to play D&D. These are options. These are things that might come up in the course of a story. Maybe not a lot of it is even starting gear. You don't have to memorize it all, but maybe you find it on the corpse of someone. Or maybe you go to whatever station for the power converter because you're on Tatooine. Well, maybe that power converter is, here. And what is it? It doesn't matter until it matters. So anyway, this vehicles, and if nothing else too, I love the designs. Designs in different systems. And if you go, you know what? I love Cyberpunk Red, and I want to take a vehicle from Cyberpunk Red and put it in Alien RPG. Go ahead. In fact, you know what? These colony worlds also have farms. I mean, there might very well be, for one reason or another, you got to make a wagon pulled by a mule, like what you might see in Dungeons and Dragons. So it's okay to have that too. Not everything has to be futuristic with guns and more than 4 wheels or whatever else. You can ride a horse in Alien if you really want to. Don't be afraid to put in these designs or redesigns, the considerations for things. Tweak a stat for something if you think that this stinger is a little bit different than for one reason or another. Ah, yes, the Daihotai, the tractors, a grasshopper multi-vector helijet. Seeing this, I'm kind of reminded of a Locust in BattleTech. Now, BattleTech has a role-playing game. In fact, it has 2 different types of role-playing games. But if you want to use those for minis or even inspiration, if power loaders exist in this world, why couldn't something like a mech, like a Locust? So you're absolutely welcome to incorporate that into your games. So yeah, if you're like, well, top speed is Mach 5 versus Mach 8, what does that mean? I'm not worried about that in this overview. Let's admire the art, the inspiration. If you go, oh, this kind of looks like an Imperial cruiser from 40K, cool, lean into it. Go with what compels you, what makes you happy, what can you describe? Now we're in, yep, big colony ship. Campaigns on the frontier. The sooner we patch this up and get out of here, the sooner we can go home. This place gives me the creeps. Right. Dennis Parker and Samuel Brett on the Nostromo. Again, more, and you look at this, there's nothing here like small, small. I don't know if you're still here. You know, when you look at this isn't like a highly, I want to make sure as I'm saying this, I'm conveying the spirit more than the technicality. This does not appear to be a highly detailed piece, right? We're not getting a character where, you know, there's the sheen of the glass, the leather, the look of the cloth, the metal. You're not seeing all the little things that go into the eyes, right? The minutia. And yet pieces like this are still compelling and beautiful and highly creative. Even if they're not full of fantastic, well, it's not a roaring monster with, you know, and you can see all of the patterns on the feathers or the fur or something else. You have just this evocative art. And I like that. I like it in general because, well, I'm a fan of my own imagination, but seeing this, well, not only is this a nice big bookmark in our brains, which matches the bookmarks in the table of contents. If you see this, there's still it might not be one singular detailed piece where you have like 3 different texture brushes and mixing, you know, like 10 different colors for a gradient or something. But if you look here, you can still ask questions. You can still wonder, is this mist? Are these waves that are crashing up? Is this a storm rolling in? Is it dawn? Is it dusk? And so it's a simple, but it's still a powerful piece. We have dark, we have light, contrast. And so there's still principles of art to the design where our eyes are whoop, like, yeah, it's here for the words, but look at what your eyes do. Whoop, and we go to the light. We're drawn to it like little moths. Or if you start here and you start going, oh yeah, let's follow the light mist up, dark. This can contain our vision. It makes us go over the piece. And this is not just blabbing on about the art, because again, I don't owe Free League any kind of particular praise. But I do this because if your eyes are drawn around a piece like this can help you narrate what happens when something scary crawls out of a vent. Even though this is more of a crack in the rocks, you're still getting this visual. It can still be very compelling. You can describe little leaks of steam going through the pipes of a spacecraft. Not just either motes of light or little bits of fog or wisps. Or you might say, you know what? This is actually the top of a mountain and these are clouds. And the mountain goes even higher, and they're not necessarily in spacesuits, but they have to breathe this far up. So these are clouds, whatever, 10,000 feet high or more, go even higher. And now you can wonder, well, so this is a sea of clouds. What lives in here, if anything? What would it look like moving? in a horror setting or a very detailed descriptive manner, if you have these powerful sources of light amid a very dim sky, how would you describe something flying or swimming or crawling through a cloud? What would it look like? How would you describe the sounds of this place? So it may not be like one precisely detailed piece, but there's a lot that goes into these. And I don't want you all to just skim over and go, oh, yeah, it seems like a filler. I don't know. There's so much you can draw that sets the mood and is inspiration to draw on. From which to draw. I'm sorry. Never use a preposition to end a sentence with. Ah, I did it again. By definition, a frontier colonist campaign takes place on or beyond the frontier. But while the space you are breaking is pristine and untouched by human hands, you will never entirely escape the long arm of Weyland-Yutani's or the extrasolar colonial administration's bureaucracy. There are 3 classifications routinely used to define the types of settlement found across human space. So-called nucleated colonies are found close to well-established trade routes, like the Delos Earth Run, Thesis Earth Run, and the Gauntlet, a route established between Anchor Point Station and Sutter's World. These settlements tend to be busy and well-connected trading hubs and interstellar crossroads for explorers, colonists, and space truckers. Along political and interstellar boundaries, you find the linear colonies. They often serve as military or intelligence outposts, political and diplomatic facilities, or forward staging posts, like Rim Colony, that stand on the precipice of the unknown. Finally, there are the scattered colonies, usually found in newly discovered regions of space before trade routes are formally established. These young colonies are few and far between across a particular sector. The Wayland Isles and the long-abandoned Far Spinward colonies are examples of this kind of settlement. Shake and Bake, a terraforming colony where planetary engineers set up atmospheric processing plants and keep them running while they make the air breathable, a process that takes decades. Once the atmosphere is right, the company can make what they will off the place. Hadley's Hope on LV-426 in the Zeta 2 Reticuli system was a shake and bake colony. If you want to use the terminology and if you don't like it, replace it or don't use it all at all. This is also great because it references other things you can watch or read about. Different types of settlements and colony missions, because if you're going to tell a long-form story out in a setting where you're exploring an alien world, where you are on the cusp of things, you might not have communications with the next furthest away colony, which is then the next close, whatever. Hadley's Hope said it took 2 weeks. It might take you 2 months to get a hello. That's even if the entire message can come through. So having this as a theme, whether you want to sit down with your players or you're concocting this to write because maybe you want to make some third-party stuff for Free League and Alien, or you want to just run it for friends. You do need this kind of a theme. What has brought everyone out here? Which kind of colony? What is the purpose? Is it just, drill baby drill? Are you here more because everyone are, we're leaning into tropes and stereotypes in this trope stereotype, kind of dystopian future. You all are on like a Greenpeace hippie people for the ethical treatment of animals colony because you want to escape the cruelty and abuses that animals inflict. So if it's just people, there's no animals. You go and you find a planet that has no animals that could ever be abused ever. And then you have fun because when a xenomorph infests the PETA colony, what happens? It's a moral conundrum. Have fun with it, but it's still thematic. It sets that original expectation that you can either twist, maybe subvert, or really lean into and go hard and really have it be detailed and fulfilled. Grow your colony over time. So it's just 10 families, and over the course of your your campaign play here, it grows because you play over the course of 50 years. You might even have a character that dies of natural causes, not unnatural ones, and you're playing the inheritors of the colony, and you grow it from there like a base building, like an RTS game. More terminologies: Jiffy Popped, Armed and Hammered, Extra Crispy Colony, Explorer campaigns, Colony campaigns. This talks about atmospheric processing. And by the way, there's a lot of video games that can take you into atmospheric processors and have a lot of, just architecture, things that are even inadvertently blessed by the license holders to be architecture and style. You could watch a playthrough of Fire Team. You could watch what was the Gearbox Aliens game that it's success or otherwise, it takes you through Hadley's Hope, a colony. Or like you go through Hadley's Hope. Or there's other ones too. There's what's the RTS what's the RTS Aliens game? It's that isometric perspective where you're controlling a small squad. There's architecture, a lot of atmosphere in those too. So what this is getting across, if you want to read through it, in fact, you might even know that you want to ultimately run a colony campaign, but it's going to start as an explorer because maybe the team are explorers. In the first third, their ship gets stranded, and all of a sudden you want to shift over into a colony because they're going to have to make do because no one's coming out this way, right? Different expeditions that you can go on. There's no end to expeditions to be played out in a Frontier Colonist campaign, even before your PCs come across a xenomorph, abomination, or engineer relic. Here are notes on a few. Go out on salvage, supplying cargo runs. This system is certainly deadly enough that there are stakes in even just exploring, without even getting into virulence or poisons or suffocating, dying of dehydration or lack of oxygen, lack of water, etc. This can itself be a very deadly system without just needing xenomorphs everywhere. But look, this is chock full of ways to bring various elements into your campaign, and how could you fit this into it? You want a Hatfield and McCoy throwdown in space? Go with family squabbles. In fact, base it on the Hatfields and McCoys. I mean, depending on your age, if you're running for younger people, they probably didn't even pick up on stuff like that from the Looney Tunes because they're too young for it. Now, I'm only turning 24 this year, so I clearly have no idea what I'm talking about. But there's nothing saying that if, draw from history, but make it your own. Put it into this interesting future. Or maybe these two families landed on a planet and have been colonizing it themselves for a great long while. It's just the two families, and they do get into fighting with each other, into feuding even. Hi, Skin-In. Oh, it's not XCOM, but there is an isometric alien game an isometric alien game where you control a small squad going through and doing missions. I was gonna say Kardashians in space, but Star Trek already did it. Falling Skies also did an isometric game based off show and knocking off XCOM, says James. The atmosphere, we're talking about Alien RPG, and so in that, Wayland Yutani can help with atmospheric processing, terraforming. So that's what was brought up in that section, because in these longer style forms of campaign play, that could be a major issue, because you might be relegated to a base. You have to stay in a sealed atmospheric processor if you want to live without breathing equipment. There's a really good, it doesn't have anything to do with xenomorphs and aliens. There's a really good game called Fort Solace. SOLIS. Not the comfort, SOLACE. Fort Solace. It's a neat game, and that can be a fun and compelling story. In fact, you can have a team of researchers, and you effectively run Fort Solace, an alien RPG here. I'm sorry, pardon me. But you can see that this is equipping you with all kinds of different ideas, ways to incorporate it singularly or to layer it in together. Well, even if you don't like the specific lore, this as a system can work to run Helldivers, Starship Troopers. This can run, we're talking about XCOM. This can run a lot of other systems that can D&D do it? Yes, of course D&D can do it. Any of these systems can run any other system. But for thematical purposes, for things with just baked in, things that are ready to go, there's so much you can do here. Oh, Dead Space as well. So it looks like there's this great beast here. Has nothing to do with xenomorphs and aliens and facehuggers and all that. This is simply called the Harvester. How would something like the... Or wait, is that what this is, or is that talking about the shock collars? Usually handle 2 or more Wranglers, electroprods. Terrible beast. A cross between a giant tardigrade and a huge worm that burrows through rock. By the way, tardigrades, very popular, also known as water bears, and are the first organism that has shown can live in the vacuum of space and all its radiation and everything else. So why not take this concept on a microscopic level of a tardigrade, a water bear, and magnify it? Burrows through rock as easily as we move through air. Uncontrolled, a harvester is a mighty menace, but so-called tamed harvesters have been used for years as organic aids to mining operations, using their great churning maws to grind up rock and sniff out valuable minerals. They are usually handled by 2 or more Wranglers wielding giant electroprods, nicknamed Zappers. Okay, so yeah, here, you might even have one of these aboard your ship in a stasis. And it's the pet. It's the family pet. So play along with that too. Let's see. Getting into different hazardous conditions: hypoxia, heat stroke, gravity, dyspraxia. A random table on things you'll find prospecting, I love the random tables in here too. What to do if your compression suit busts? Hero Dragon says water bears that maybe seem immortal. It's an owl bear, Siskanian. Ah. Systems and colonies. Again, we look here. This is a beautiful piece. And character art is wonderful and fun, but I mean to get that illusion of light here, to indicate the shape of coastlines through just a very subtle application of lights, and I like this. This is all thematically supporting the system, and it's very inspirational. So we get into again, do you have to memorize the charts? No, please don't. You don't have to, especially if you're just a player. Play what the game mother, the GM, is putting out there. Now, as a GM, do you even have to memorize all this? Do you have to memorize that on the frontier, in the Wayland Isles sector, in the GJ1187 system, that Seanmen has a quarantine alert going on? No. Do you want Seanmen to have a quarantine alert in your game? No? Then don't. In fact, put it over on Susie too. And I'm redundant about this because, again, in my profession, I've seen a lot of people who might want to embrace a new game, hit something like this, and suddenly go disinterested. Even though in their original game, they never had to memorize all the spells, they never had to memorize all the monsters, they never had to memorize all the equipment charts or anything. It's something that I don't know what the psychological phenomenon is, where you have something that you regularly do, and you can still do it, but you don't because something looks different. I'm sure it's a phenomenon. It has an actual name. But even someone with that kind of mind, where they have every spell in D&D memorized, and they have every piece of equipment in Chapter 5 of the Player's Handbook memorized, can still hit this speed bump and go, error, 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 and say, I don't think I want to play Alien RPG. I mean, look at this chart. Sir or ma'am, excuse you, have you looked at the encyclopedic knowledge you have of D&D? And why is this chart keeping you from running a Lost in Space campaign? Because I know you love it. You can't stop talking about the old show and the new movie and everything else. And you've always had this plan. I'm giving you a system, and you're gonna look at a chart of random territories, and this is what dashes your hopes and dreams. Mm-hmm. Come on now. Now, if you want super detailed stuff, you love making maps. You love lore. Look, here's expanded sections on these things that were talked about, that were charted. So if you go, I can't do that. Oh, pretty picture. I like pretty pictures. They make my eyes happy. Then here you go. But you had to give it a chance. You had to flip that page. And now you say, oh, the Omniseti system. Not just what was in a chart. But it's giving you a lot of conditions to these planets, a lot of things to think about. Can you imagine playing a character where the climate of the planet is breathable but stale air with no discernible winds? In our daily lives, we're used to wind. I mean, like subtle, powerful, just listening to the trees in the background. It's not until you read a creepypasta story or something else and you say, the leaves aren't blowing, the grass isn't blowing. It's still. It's too still. There's not the background noise of the wind against shutters or sand or a house or you or your visor in your suit. Can you imagine the unsettling effect until you're used to it? That you live in a place that has no discernible winds. And what that could do for the tension of your story, for everything that you're trying to build. Whether it's actually like building a colony or trying to build up with stress, with description. You don't get that the wind blows through the cave, woo, and scares you with spooky ghost sounds, because that doesn't happen. There's no birds. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was in Covenant. That was in Covenant. Here's an atmospheric processor. How else are you going to make ozone? How else are you going to make steam? How else are you going to add? I mean, for it, as much as there's talk on our planet for carbon dioxide and the atmosphere and everything, on Mars, it's theorized that we need to cause a greenhouse effect on Mars to make it habitable. We have to pump this out into the atmosphere to thicken it, to make it more manageable, to make it a planet we can live on without a situation like in Total Recall. Total Recall? Oh, you mean I could run a game like Total Recall, an alien RPG? Why not? It's all right there. Especially if everyone has to live inside the base and they can't go outside. At least not until some xenoarchaeological stuff is done. So, all of these colonies, look at the art, look at this beautiful, all these references. And if you say, you know what, Sanchez Outpost, you and I are going to get along, but you deserve better than the coy 1938 system. Sanchez Outpost, come with me, my friend. We are instead going over to the coy 2020 system. Because you're much better located here. Sanchez, you deserved better, my friend, and I'm giving it to you. Redacted from the Weyland-Yutani Extrasolar Species Catalog. There's a monster in your chest. These guys hijacked your ship, and they sold your cryotube to this human. And he put an alien inside of you. It's a really nasty one. And in a few hours, it's going to burst through your ribcage, and you're going to die. Any questions? Ripley 8. What does this invoke? Look at the perspective on the piece. We have the contrast. Not a lot of you don't need a ton of color here. This is telling a wonderful story. Now, this is probably getting a little bit into stuff that a player might not want to look up, so that the encounters can be extra spicy. But I'll tell you what. Let's take a look at one such creature that could show up, or be completely reflavored into a non, I don't know, into something else, right? A xenocobra, a hammerpede. The xenocobra or hammerpede is a mutation that occurs when worms are infected by the black pathogen. Pale with translucent gray-white skin, the hammerpede's coloration can be likened to that of the neomorph. The Prometheus mission recorded specimens with a length of 1.2 meters, but some scientists claim the creature's biology suggests they can reach lengths of up to 10 meters. The smooth, serpent-bodied creature has a head that resembles a knob or clenched fist, until, of course, it is threatened. The hammerpede then unfolds its hood to expose its mouth. Containment and termination protocol. These creatures have acid for blood and can regenerate their severed parts, the round, after they're lost. They also like to force themselves down your throat, suffocate you, and rearrange your internal organs to create a personal corpse den for themselves. Cute little bastards. The best way to kill them, as always, is with fire. A note from Mother. The statistics below are for a 1 to 2 meter hammerpede. For each meter longer, increase its health rating by 1 while reducing its mobility the same. And here's your here are the attacks you can randomly roll or choose from if you want. I'll tell you what, Demon Quiller, roll 1d6 in chat. Let's see what this hammerpede does as you encounter it. Lands on a... wait a minute. Lands on a 7? What sort of Wayland Yutani tomfoolery is this? Demon Quiller, either re-roll or pick a number, since it's roller's choice. Do you want the Bolt, the Mesmerizing Dance, Intimidate, Grasp, Squeeze and Snap, or Punch and Deep Throat? Option 3, Intimidate. The hammerpede unfurls its hoods, displaying its mouth with a hiss. All present gain +1 stress level. That's a nice AoE stress effect, and all from this little 2-meter worm. And you'll notice in this system, like, this happens. This isn't a will saving throw. And you might go, well, I don't know, it seems like a wasted round. Stress is a very, compounded especially, a very deadly thing. This is very much an attack, and in this case, it's an AoE attack, because all present gain +1 stress level. You do not have an option here. And so, even for this little mouthy worm, that is something that is, that could be a devastating thing for a party. But you get some pretty gnarly stuff. The Punch and Deep Throat move. You're like, oh, okay, snarl, stalk, I get it. But then you get over to like slicing arms, and you go, yep, this definitely, this can get R-rated or more if you all choose to take it there. So pathogens and all sorts of other interesting things. This might be a shape that's familiar to some of you if you've seen the movies. This was Cuddles. I talked about Cuddles. I think I showed a picture of Cuddles from the book to you all. So here, this is Cuddles. Everyone can say hi. Can I get a hi, Cuddles, in chat? Oh, there we go. Thank you, James. I'll tell you what, James, you said howdy to Cuddles. I want to know what Cuddles is going to do to you. Can you please type exclamation point 1d6? Oh, a grabbing tentacle. All right, James, this is what happens. The trilobite whips out a tentacle, snaring the victim, in this case, James. It attacks with 8 base dice, damage 1. If the tentacle hits, the trilobite immediately drags the victim to a neighboring zone. The victim is prone. Stress level increases by +1 for the victim, and they must make an immediate panic roll. So yeah, it bursts out like what you see here. A tendril goes around you, and you are drug away to a room over, or into the ceiling, or down into the watery sewer level or something. I love this very stark light and dark. This was done well in Alien Isolation. There are scenes where you can, where like the sun is coming through a window to space, and you get these extremes. You get these moments of super bright and super dark right next to each other. It's gorgeous stuff. I love it. All right. Well, The Lost Worlds. This is the campaign for the book. I don't mind looking through it myself because I don't want to spoil things. Maybe I can look through it and give you a spoiler-free review of the adventure. But for now, I think we finished with the review of the contents that are in here. There's a lot here to build, to quite literally build worlds in Alien RPG. Build your own, or use the contents in the front half to modify things that you want in the back half. You don't understand. This place isn't what we thought it was. I was wrong. We were so wrong. Says Elizabeth Shaw. Yeah, the shadowing, very stark, very wonderful stuff. All right, well, don't look at those other pages. What are you all doing looking? No lookies. No lookies, everyone. And I'll see tomorrow what I can do. But we can have a rules review if you all want. And I could probably go over this so you understand more about things that were talked about with Panic and everything else.